The camera pans across a decimated locker room. Steel chairs bent beyond recognition, lockers ripped from their hinges, blood splattered across the concrete walls. And in the center of this absolute carnage stands Bron Breakker, chest heaving, knuckles bloodied, staring directly into the lens with eyes that have lost all trace of humanity. This isn't the young hungry competitor we thought we knew. This is something else entirely. Something darker. Something that just shattered every single alliance, every promise, every ounce of respect in one brutal 15-minute assault that left Brock Lesnar, the Brock Lesnar, unconscious in a pool of his own blood just 72 hours before Survivor Series. And if you think you know why this happened, if you think this is just another wrestling angle, another scripted betrayal, you need to hear what actually went down backstage tonight, because this changes absolutely everything. Before we go any further, look, I need you to do something for me. This story, what I'm about to tell you, it's going to shake you to your core. It's going to make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty in professional wrestling. And I need this information to reach every single wrestling fan on this platform. So if you're already feeling that anger rising in your chest, if you're already thinking about what Breaker just threw away, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me if you think this was justified or if Bron just made the biggest mistake of his career. Share this with every wrestling fan you know, because they need to hear this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm asking you, person to person, human to human, please hit that subscribe button. This channel is my life. Every video, every script, every late night spent analyzing this industry, it's because I genuinely love wrestling as much as you do, and I promise to always bring you the real story, not the corporate sanitized version. We're building something special here together. Now let's talk about the betrayal that nobody saw coming. The Vision. That's what they called themselves. Brock Lesnar, the most dominant force in WWE history, taking Bron Breakker, the second-generation destroyer with Steiner blood pumping through his veins, under his massive wing. It was supposed to be the passing of the torch moment we'd talk about for decades. The Beast incarnate recognizing himself in this young, hungry, freakishly athletic competitor and deciding to mold him into something even more dangerous. For 6 months, they were unstoppable. They destroyed tag teams like they were made of paper. They dominated war games. They held the entire locker room hostage with pure intimidation and violence. Brock gave Bron everything. Training sessions at 5 a.m., diet plans, supplement regimens. He shared the secrets that made him a multi-time world champion. He introduced Bron to Paul Heyman, for God's sake. Do you understand what that means? Paul Heyman doesn't work with just anybody. He's a kingmaker. And Brock handed his protege that opportunity on a silver platter. But here's what nobody knew. Here's what was festering beneath the surface while everyone celebrated this mentorship. Bron Breakker was never content being the sidekick. Never. See, everyone looked at the Vision and saw Brock Lesnar with his young apprentice. But Bron saw something completely different. He saw himself standing in a shadow he never asked to stand in. He saw himself winning matches, delivering spears that would end careers, hitting those devastating gorilla press power slams, and every single time, the commentators would say the same thing. They'd say he's learning from Brock. They'd say he's following in Brock's footsteps. They'd say he's becoming the next Lesnar. And each time they said it, something inside Bron cracked just a little bit more. You want to know when this really started? It wasn't tonight. It wasn't last week. It goes back to Money in the Bank. Remember that match? Bron Breakker was tearing through everyone. He had Damian Priest set up for the finish. The crowd was on their feet. This was going to be Bron's moment, his first major singles championship opportunity on the grandest stage. And what happened? Brock Lesnar's music hit. The Beast walked down that ramp, and suddenly everyone forgot Bron even existed. The cameras focused on Lesnar. The crowd erupted for Lesnar. And when the dust settled, when that match ended in chaos, who got the championship opportunity the next month? Not the guy who was dominating the match. Not the second-generation star who'd been proving himself week after week. No, it was Brock Lesnar who got inserted into the SummerSlam main event while Bron was relegated to the pre-show. The pre-show. After that night, people close to the situation started noticing changes in Bron. His interviews became shorter, more clipped. When interviewers would ask him about learning from Brock, his jaw would tighten, his eyes would go cold. But he played the role. He smiled for the cameras. He stood beside Lesnar and raised his fist. Because Bron Breakker is many things, but stupid isn't one of them. He knew that breaking away from Brock Lesnar too early, without the perfect moment, would be career suicide. So he waited. He calculated. He became the most dangerous thing a wrestler can be: patient and vengeful. Then came the Survivor Series announcement 3 weeks ago. Traditional 5-on-5 elimination tag team matches returning to showcase the absolute best from both rosters. And of course, Brock Lesnar was announced as a team captain, the face of Team SmackDown, the centerpiece, the main event. And Bron? Bron was listed as just another team member, not co-captain, not the special attraction. Just another body filling out the roster. That's when sources say Bron went to management. He had a closed-door meeting that lasted over an hour. Nobody knows exactly what was said, but people who were near that office reported hearing raised voices, hearing furniture moving. And when Bron walked out of that meeting, his face was stone-cold emotionless. What nobody realized, what even Brock Lesnar himself didn't see coming, was that Bron had been studying his mentor for 6 months. Not just his wrestling technique, not just his psychology in the ring. He'd been studying Brock's patterns, his habits, his vulnerabilities. See, Brock Lesnar is the most dominant wrestler of this generation, but he's also predictable. He trains at the same time every day. He arrives at the arena exactly 90 minutes before showtime. He does his warm-up routine in the same sequence every single night. And tonight, Bron used every single piece of that knowledge to orchestrate the most calculated, most vicious assault in recent WWE history. Brock arrived at the arena at his usual time. He walked through the corridor toward his private locker room, the one they give to only the biggest stars. His security detail was with him. His agent was with him. Everything was normal. Everything was routine. He opened that locker room door, stepped inside, and found Bron Breakker sitting in the dark, illuminated only by the glow of a video screen showing their greatest victories together. And for just a split second, just one moment, Brock smiled. He thought his protege was there to talk strategy for Survivor Series. He thought maybe Bron had finally embraced being part of the vision instead of fighting against his role. That split second of letting his guard down was all Bron needed. The first spear came out of absolutely nowhere. It wasn't a wrestling move. It wasn't performed for cameras or crowds. This was pure violence. Brock crashed through the wooden bench against the wall. Before he could even process what was happening, Bron was on him again. Fists, elbows, knees. This wasn't wrestling. This was an attempted murder. Brock Lesnar, the man who's been in street fights, who's competed in UFC, who's legitimately one of the toughest human beings on planet Earth, couldn't mount any defense because he never saw it coming. The betrayal was so complete, so unexpected from someone he trusted, that his mind couldn't catch up with what his body was experiencing. The security team tried to intervene. 3 guys, all over 250 pounds, all trained professionals. Bron went through them like they weren't even there. He threw one through the locker room door. He choked another unconscious in 8 seconds. The third one, the footage that's going to haunt that man for the rest of his life, Bron picked him up and gorilla pressed him onto Brock Lesnar's already broken body. Then he cleared the room. Just stood there and roared for everyone to get out. And they did. Because the look in his eyes wasn't the look of a wrestler performing. It was the look of someone who had snapped completely. For the next 10 minutes, it was just Bron and Brock in that room. No cameras. No witnesses, just the sounds of impact and destruction echoing down the corridor. Other wrestlers gathered outside. Roman Reigns tried to break through. Seth Rollins was screaming for security to do something. But here's the thing that nobody's talking about: some of those wrestlers, the ones who've been in Bron's position, the ones who know what it's like to live in someone else's shadow, they didn't try to stop it. They stood there and listened to the beast incarnate get absolutely destroyed by his protege, and some of them, if you look at the footage carefully, some of them were nodding, like they understood. Like this had been coming for a long time. When the door finally opened, when Bron finally walked out, his hands were covered in blood. His chest was heaving, and he looked directly at every single wrestler gathered in that corridor and said 7 words that are already becoming legendary: "The vision is dead. I am God." Then he walked away. Just walked calmly down that corridor while behind him, medical personnel rushed into the locker room to find Brock Lesnar unconscious, bleeding from multiple facial lacerations, with what initial reports suggest might be fractured ribs, a broken orbital bone, and a severe concussion. Now WWE is in absolute chaos. Survivor Series is in 3 days. They've already sold out the arena. They've already promoted Brock Lesnar as the centerpiece of the entire event. And now their biggest attraction is in a hospital getting CT scans and x-rays while his former protege is somewhere in the building, unreachable, uncontrollable, and according to multiple sources, completely unhinged. Adam Pearce called an emergency meeting with all the producers. Triple H flew in personally to handle the situation. And the question everyone's asking is the same: what do you do with Bron Breakker now? Because here's the reality that WWE has to face. Bron just did the unthinkable. He destroyed the aura of invincibility around Brock Lesnar. He proved that the beast can be beaten, not in a match, not in a competitive athletic contest, but beaten in the most primal, most violent way possible. And as terrible as that is, as much as we should condemn the methods, there's a part of the wrestling audience that's responding to this in a way that's making executives very nervous. The social media reaction isn't universal condemnation. It's split. Half the fans are calling for Bron to be fired, arrested, banned from the industry. But the other half? They're calling him the realest thing in wrestling. They're saying he did what everyone wishes they had the courage to do. They're turning him into an anti-hero whether WWE wants that or not. The Steiner family has been silent. Rick Steiner, Bron's father, hasn't made any public statements. Scott Steiner, his uncle, the man known for his own volatile history, reportedly tried calling Bron 17 times tonight and got sent to voicemail every single time. Paul Heyman, the man who was supposed to represent both Brock and potentially Bron in the future, is stuck in an impossible position. And Brock Lesnar himself, when he regains consciousness, when he processes what happened, the retaliation is going to be biblical. But here's what I think is going to happen, and this is pure speculation based on how WWE operates. They can't fire Bron Breaker. They legally could, but they won't. Because the moment Bron walked out of that locker room covered in Brock Lesnar's blood, he became the most talked about wrestler in the world. Every news outlet is picking this up. Every wrestling podcast is doing emergency episodes. The footage, what little exists, is being shared millions of times across every platform. And WWE, for all their talk about sportsmanship and respect, is still a business. And Bron Breakker just made himself the most valuable commodity they have. My prediction? Survivor Series becomes about Bron. Whether Brock can compete or not, whether he's cleared medically or not, this story is now the story. And somewhere in Stamford, Connecticut, executives are looking at the analytics, seeing the engagement numbers, seeing the mainstream attention, and they're already rewriting the script. Because in professional wrestling, in this insane, beautiful, terrible industry we love, sometimes the most shocking betrayals become the most profitable storylines. And Bron Breakker just wrote himself into a story that's going to define the next decade of WWE programming, whether anyone wanted it or not.